I'm so excited to chat with Jago today on the Awaken Feminine podcast. Jago is the founder of Dos Lunas Consulting, a sales coaching company for passionate coaches. And she's also the host of the Warrior Mama CEO podcast. And I know she has so much love and wisdom to share with us today. She's joining me all the way from Texas in the United States. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, Karki, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited.
So glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. And I probably will be jumping between Jago and Jess.
You can.
I might forget to call you Jago.
This is a recent nickname of mine, so I will understand that. It's a lot better than my name, which trips people up sometimes. Of course, I've got the typical American German Irish given name, and then I married a American Mexican. So we're just the good old typical American mutt over here.
I love your full name though. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, before we dive into our conversation, I want to ask you my favorite question, which is, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
Ooh. Girl, there's so many things to unpack here, right? I would say the most obvious to me, there's been a couple of seasons in my life where I had this awakening, if you will. The most recent was becoming a mother, a natural mother to my 4-year-old. And there was like this switch in my brain that happened to me where I thought that being feminine, being woman looked like this. And I had assumptions of motherhood. And then I had my son and my whole world flipped upside down and I never saw it coming. And I was so in love with this child that I couldn't even, I couldn't function on some levels. But so that was like my most recent just realization of the power of the woman, the power of what it means, like the creative flow that we have, the ability to create life, to nurture life, to solve problems within all of that, and how that just takes us across so many different planes in this lifetime.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that definition. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Sure.
So, Jago, I know you were in corporate before, and now you've obviously got your own sales company where you help coaches, with the sales and marketing. Can you share with us why you transitioned down this path?
Yeah. It's kind of interesting, really. To give you some context, I have to take you back to when I was 8 and I was in Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to sell those amazing cookies. Now, this was a long time ago for me now, over 30 years. And so we didn't stand in front of stores back then. We actually went door to door hawking cookies in our neighborhoods. And I remember going out with my dad and hustling my little neighborhood in the Pacific Northwest, where I grew up. And I don't have like the perfect memories of this. I just know that in the end, we sold a lot of cookies, like 1,000+ cookie boxes, which at the time was apparently a big deal because I ended up getting every award perk you could possibly get from selling that many cookies, horseback riding camp and trip and all the things. And my parents were started implanting in me the seed that I was a natural salesperson, that this was like a gifting of mine. And I carried that through a lot of my life. In fact, I carried it through college where I actually sold, ironically, educational books door to door. And I got recruited by this company. I did it for almost 6 summers and it paid for all of the incidentals in college. I didn't have any student loan debt. It was really a defining moment for me as an entrepreneur, but really it was also a massive roadblock because the last summer selling, I got so, I guess we would say I would just got frozen in fear of just attempting to knock on doors. Like something I had done for a few years. I had gotten through all of the awkward stages of what to say and all the things. But then all of a sudden I got smacked with overthinking, approaching people. And all of a sudden I just stalled out. I lost all. It's not that I didn't want to do it. It was that I was petrified to do it. All of a sudden I've just totally laced with fear. And this idea in my head that, oh, this is something natural. This is my identity almost, that this is just, my parents imprinted on me that I was just, they would joke that I could sell, a red popsicle to a woman in white gloves. Like it was like the family joke that I was always hustling something, to all of a sudden be hit with the fact that I couldn't do it anymore because I was so afraid, really brought me down this exploration of like, well, what is it really? Is it really like only a few people have this and it's a special gift and, sales is only for the select? Or is it a learned skill and there's things that I can implement into my life, into the process of building my businesses? And I've ultimately stayed in sales my entire life, just in different industries along the way. And it's been a real joy to discover the nuances and the truth that it's not just a gift, that it can be learned, especially if you want to do it, which is probably part of the nature of who I am, the idea of doing it in service to benefit someone else, not to just take advantage of them or, the stigma that sales can sometimes have for people. They've been burned in the past, or, you get that still, which is kind of ironic, but the whole used car salesman kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And there are some very nice used car salesmen.
Right?
They are being of service.
Some of them are crushing it right now.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, in Australia as well, because there are no new cars coming in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they are being of service because you want a used car and they're there to help you.
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to touch on you losing your confidence, right? Did you ever discover what it was that held you in that fear?
That's such a great question.
And how did you get out of it? Because there's so many people, myself included, when it comes to sales, I had to work through a lot of shit to get to the other side. Yep. Can you, talk a bit about that?
Well, first of all, I had to realize, and this wasn't just like an epiphany that happened like in my sleep. It was a few years of a process of me realizing that fear is a liar, period. So there's that ideology of like, okay, well, fear, and it's not to be dismissive because sometimes that's a little bit, I don't want to say woo, but when you're up there and like, well, just ignore it. It's not real, right? Well, yeah, but your feelings about it are real. So how do you address that, right? When it comes to, ultimately, I think what I figured out was that I wasn't just that identifier. Like I wasn't just the salesperson, that I had much more to offer the world. And my identity is really rooted in who I am, like the core of who I am, my birthright, where I come from. I believe that I'm part of, how do I put this? That I'm part of a kingship, if you will, that the God that I serve, I'm a child of. And so that truth grounds me. And so the confidence part doesn't come from the awards or the recognition or the bank account or the trophies, which was so much a part of the identity, especially in sales, of how you ranked yourself and how you defined yourself as worthy.
Yeah, I so agree with everything you said. And I think as a society growing up, it was the people that did well get the awards, and the people that didn't do well don't get the awards. And it really does affect your confidence and your self-esteem. So it's no wonder that we are in a society where people don't know who they are, have no self-esteem or low self-esteem, and lack confidence in what they believe in or who they think they are. So that's a amazing epiphany. So I want to ask you then, transitioning. So you said you've been in sales most of your career, your life, in different industries, I guess. What made you decide to start your own business to help people? I mean, it's a gift you have, and it's a gift that you still have. So what made you decide, actually, I'm just going to go out and help people on my own and not, do things for others, like work for other people? Yeah.
Well, my husband and I owned a financial services firm for almost 10 years, and we were great at it, but it became very heavy and really challenged our relationship. Again, like our identity, like what are we doing? And in 2020, like most people, we had what I like to call a come to Jesus meeting where we were like, what are we doing? At the time, we lived in Southern California on the coast, which was beautiful and amazing. And of course, you can't beat some of that gorgeousness. But we had to choose between caring for our family the way that we wanted to, being there for our kid, and putting him in an environment that he could thrive in, or continuing to do the hustle. And it felt very much like no matter how successful we were, we felt like we were still striving. And that was a feeling we were tired of feeling. And so we made the decision to relocate for lots of different reasons. In the States, each state has their own sort of rulership as far as, expectations and with the things that we deal with now, right? As far as the time of this interview. And so we don't subscribe to the fear mongering that this season has also generated for a lot of people. And so we needed to find a place that we could do life. And so when we transitioned, I got a word from a prophet that I follow that told me, you're going to build new branches. You're going to grow new branches. And I was like, grow new branches? I'm not a gardener. I'm just kidding.
Full goosebumps going on here, by the way. Keep going.
And I said, I had really been tossing and turning over letting go of the definition of the success that we were having, because it wasn't like we were not successful in the eyes of the world. But there was this piece that I was feeling called to serve more people. And really what I have come to realize is it's about serving people to help them reach their dream instead of serving people to help reach my dream. And so my transition from building my own financial empire and using my gift in sales to do that has switched to wanting to serve particularly coaches, healers, teachers that are really wanting to scale, or they're wanting to up their game. Maybe they have some clients now, but it's not sustainable to get them to the next level, whatever that means for them. Like, how are their conversions? How are their conversations? Because, when you're a healer, when you're a teacher, when you're a coach, you want to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. Like you already want to dig in and get it. And, it's hard if that's difficult. I wouldn't say it's opposite, but sales has a different set of muscles in order to get people to that. And so you have some of those muscles already. It's just, how do you flex them and really take someone through the journey of discovering it for themselves?
Yeah. I love that. What a journey. And and I love how, you kind of had to redefine what success means to you and your husband or your family. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people listening right now can probably relate to the, on the outside, oh, everything's amazing. We've got a great business or, great career. We're making lots of money. We live in a nice house. Or, all the stuff. But when you look behind the scenes, you're stressed out, you're hustling, you don't have time to spend with your child. Mm-hmm. And then, the list goes on. So it's such a big move. And, I applaud you for taking those steps, because it's not easy. Definitely. I want to ask you about coaches and selling. Okay. So as you know, I'm a coach, and I think with most coaches, and especially more healers even, there's always this, I feel bad for charging people. I feel bad for selling my services, because we're so heart-led, which is, your target, audience. We are so heart-led. We just want to serve. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I also know coaches who are not so heart-led, but the people that I hang around are all very heart-led. They just want to help people. They just want to help people get better, take them to the next level, teach them what, what they did. So, because that's what worked for them, And then you get to the sales call and you're like, how do I get past this and not sound like a jerk, etc. What tips or advice do you have for people, any of my coaching audience listening, to really kind of step into the belief that we are offering a service and that is kind of that exchange of energy?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you have to just be like heart-centered serve to feel like that. I think a lot of people, whether they want to identify that way, probably have that same challenge. Yeah. There's two things I could talk about this. One is the internal. One is your internal compass, if you will. How do you see yourself? So I like to call it like, what's your mindset around money? So there's that. If you struggle with valuing yourself, it has a lot to do with your what we call a poverty mindset. Like, you're dealing with your own demons of worth. Mm-hmm. And that could be from so many different things. Your upbringing, your own confidence, how you value yourself, all of those. Mm-hmm. But the other piece of it is really how you want to serve the person that you're sitting in front of. And I actually think it's a disservice if you want to fix them, but you don't believe in the transformation that happens from the transaction. Because if you really wanted to help them, and I assume if you really want to help them, it's probably because you've had your own transformation. Like Russell Brunson says, it's like the normal version of you, right? Like the one before you became obsessed with what you're obsessed with now, right? Then we're typically serving that person, the version of us before the transformation. I think the best way to say it is this. There's a quote that I heard just recently, and it was so well spot on for like how I feel about what we're talking about, because I think if we don't realize that to serve someone is to actually allow them to do business with us, then we're shortchanging them. J. Abraham said, if you truly believe that what you have is useful and valuable to your clients, then you have a moral obligation to try to serve them in every way possible. A moral obligation. So it's not just you telling them what they need to do to get better, et cetera, coach them through it, if you will, teach them. It's about allowing them to take the journey. And the journey includes putting money down, because that's how we measure value, right? I mean, it is paper. It's paper that we decided is worth something as a society. So we said, okay, this is worth this to me. I'm willing to trade it. And when you allow your client to make that exchange, you're actually starting their transformation.
Yes. I love that. And that is, I 100% agree with that, because just coming from the other side. So I paid coaches to help me, because coaches also need coaches, because you just want to keep going to the next level. And even like buying, little tiny courses that you see online, right? I find if I pay like, they say, it's like, $7 for the course. And then I'm like, oh, okay. You pay the $7 and you're like, you don't actually, it doesn't feel like you want, you just, I just paid $7. I'll do it later. You don't make it a priority. So therefore, you don't transform, you don't do the work. But the more money you invest, which means that you value yourself more, it's that, you're exchanging that much more. You're like, oh, that transformation is starting now, because I've put more value on my transformation than $7. I've paid 5 figures for coaches before. So, it's like, yeah. So I love that explanation.
Well, and the other piece of this, because I feel like I need to also say that it doesn't mean as a coach that this line of reasoning means you are excessive with your rates, right? It doesn't mean that you can't have a high ticket, but it also requires you as the coach to serve at your highest level. If you're going to have a high ticket offer, you have to show up as a high ticket coach.
Yeah.
And I think I don't really subscribe to the, just charge them more philosophy that sometimes I see in Facebook groups and other places where, just charge them more, just charge them more. Well, you need to actually fulfill more. Like you have to surprise and delight them at an even higher level if you're going to charge them more. And what is that going to look like? You have to have a plan to do that, not just change your rate and then give them the same service that maybe a lower ticket offer is going to look like.
Yeah, that is so true as well. Because I've been in programs where like, you just need to charge high ticket. And I'm like, okay, but why? So let's talk about pricing, because I set prices. As you know, I'm quite woo. So I set prices obviously with looking at what I'm providing my clients, what services I'm providing my clients, but also really kind of like connecting with whatever's available to go, okay, that's the price. So it's not it just comes from my soul and from my guides as well. But, you were just talking about, you don't need to be selling all high ticket or, all low ticket items. What do you find is the best way to kind of choose a price point for your clients?
Such a good question. I've been working on this myself. I think you want to have really a scale. You want to have like your DIY people. That's going to be like a lower ticket offer where they can on demand jump into a course. They can self-teach, right? Something that you have maybe automated. And then you have a done with you level of service. And maybe that's group coaching. Maybe that's like workshop style, intensives, something that requires more of your time. And then the third one is the done for you. And the done for you level is when you take your skills, your gifts, and you basically take on their problem and you do it for them. Now that might look like one-on-one coaching if you're a coach practitioner. But if you're a service provider, maybe that's doing the thing that you're coaching them to do. If you teach, Instagram, maybe your high ticket is you actually do their Instagram, because you can only take on so many clients at that level because it requires all of your time. So you have to find the balance between how much of my time am I going to exchange at this rate and how much of me are they going to get in the process.
Yeah.
So that's sort of how and you should have those tiers too, because people, think about it like this. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a really good example. Okay. It's kind of like when you buy makeup at the store, right? Or you do one of those like mail delivery things and you try their eyeliner and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best eyeliner ever. I can't believe it. And you're sold on the eyeliner. And then you're like, well, what else do they have? Oh, they've got foundation. They've got skincare. They've got right? And all of a sudden you're buying the whole line, but it didn't start. You didn't just walk in and buy the whole line. You started with this really great lip gloss or this really great eyeliner. And then you started building that relationship. You want to think of that as a coach. What's your client's journey going to be with you? They might just be listening to you on the podcast right now. They're like, oh my gosh, I really love how 𝐉𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐚 talks about all the things she talks about. I wonder what else she's got. And they go to your website and then they download a course or a freebie, whatever you have on and they're like, man, I really love the way she talks about this. And then they get your book on Amazon and they're like, they read the book and they're like, wow, I really love the chapter that 𝐉𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐚 wrote about, like so awesome. And then they start following you on your social. And then you set up an opportunity for them to get to know you more. Maybe you run a webinar, you have a challenge, something like that. They get to know you even more. I like to call it like the taste and see. They like, oh, she's really she's got something going on, right? And then they buy into your core level. And they do the course on demand and they're like, this is pretty good, but I still want more 𝐉𝐞𝐬𝐬𝐢𝐚. She's so awesome. How do I get her? Yeah. So ultimately, that's the flow you want to have. I don't think it's a low ticket, high ticket debate. I think you want to have them all. And you can build it out along the way when you're new. You just, start with what you know and build from there.
I believe that, there should be different, like we're saying, like the taster and then build up. Because I've been in coaching programs where they're like, screw the low ticket and just go straight high ticket. And you was just saying, you start off where you think you can serve. So what's your thoughts about where to start? Do you start at the low ticket or the high ticket, or are you more like a feel into it.
Girl, no, well, two things. One is, again, the internal conversation is you can't hesitate about your price. If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. So there's that. Like, you can't just like throw out a big number and be like, oh my gosh, I just said it was going to be 10K, right? And you don't even believe it. And then your person was sitting in front of you, or however you're, converting that client, they're like, this girl, is she sure this is 10K worth? Like, maybe I should rethink this, right? So there's that. There's all the stuff in your head. But then the other piece of it to me is, when it comes to building a foundation, and this is something I'm really passionate about right now, because there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of gurus out there selling automation and scale to a lot of entrepreneurs that are brand new in the entrepreneurial journey. They don't have the background of sales, or they don't even quite know how they serve their target market. And so what's starting to happen is that people are investing a lot of money in a guru to have the guru tell them to go and do this big thing. But you haven't yet built the foundation. So it's almost like a house of cards. Like, when is that house of cards going to fall? And I think that's where a lot of the imposter syndrome is coming from for, the coaching environment, is like, am I worthy to coach these people? Because there's not a foundation built. And I think experience gives you confidence. And so but good marketing, and this is the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Because great marketing would say, well, don't tell them that you have to have experience, right? Like just sell the scale, or just sell and that, I think, is the challenge in what we're facing right now, is that there's so many young entrepreneurs that have gotten out of corporate, or either because they had to, or because they felt called to, but they didn't lay a foundation. And so now people are getting jaded, right? Oh, I paid, $10, $15, $20,000 for this mastermind, for this guru to teach me this, and I still can't get a client. And that's because you don't have the foundation of communication that converts.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can sell one-on-one, then you go, and that's the thing, is like, you have power when you sell one-to-one. You can take that one-to-one and scale one to many. And this is just my opinion. I think marketing gurus are doing a disservice by not teaching the foundations to their people, which is, how do I have the one-on-one conversation that helps someone get the result?
Yeah. So really having having real conversations with people rather than having a bot conversation.
Yeah, that's a good step. Maybe not the bot. The bot's great if you've got, 500 DMs dropping into your inbox, but do we have 500 DMs when we first start?
No.
Like, the ego wants us to think, well, we're too we're too Gucci for that. Like, we have to have the bot because, only the high ticket people do it that way. Well, yeah, but you also don't have enough information about how your special gift serves a particular market.
Yeah.
Like, you have some assumptions about how you serve them, but you don't even have the language and the gift that you have to go one-on-one to set the foundation. Gives you what I like to call pre-approach. It gives you tons of data and case studies that you can use when you do scale.
Mm.
And that's, I think, the hardest thing right now is the whole energy of like get rich quick kind of stuff, right? Like, oh, just buy into my course and you'll be like this guy who ran one live event and made $500,000. Well, yeah, but he also had a 3,000 person email list and 500 people were at his event and he had already been serving them for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think mindset is such a big thing where, is that we feel like, well, we're in this phase in society where it's like instant gratification. And then people also want that in their businesses. And when they don't get that, they go, okay, I'm a failure or this isn't working, but they haven't actually even put in the work. They haven't even really tried. If you go in straight away to using bots so that you're not actually having a conversation with the people that you want to serve, then, you kind of go, like you say, you haven't even laid the foundations yet. That's with everything, is not even just about business, is everything you do is laying the foundations, right?
Yes. So true.
I love our conversation. I love your insights into things. And, I think, a lot of what you talked about can be transferable to just our normal daily lives, just that whole mindset of laying foundations and what it means for success, and really actually asking yourself what it is that you want, or, asking yourself those questions, because most people don't even have the time or take the time to do that, to actually understand how like clients work, or how life works, or how kids work, or how your husband works, or
still working on those.
Yeah. And it's forever working on those, isn't it?
Right.
It's never ending. Yeah, I really loved our conversation today. Jess, I want to ask you, we talked about the money piece before. I mean, I love talking about money, so I just kind of want to jump back to that a little bit. I love talking about money. And obviously there's lots of factors why people don't feel like they can charge, whether it's, even just charge money, or whether it's like a few dollars or thousands of dollars. What are some ways people kind of can get past those money blocks that they have, so that they can have that, they feel like they have that equal exchange of energy with their client? Because if you're the coach and you don't charge enough for, and you're providing this amazing service, there's this feeling of resentment towards the client. But then if you overcharge and your client doesn't feel like they're getting their money's worth, and there's that kind of resentment. But as a coach, if someone knows that they have an amazing product, but they don't feel like they can charge because they got all these like issues, what's something that they can do to go, actually, it's okay for me to charge that?
That's such a good question. It reminded me of a friend of mine who was I believe she was in corporate. It's really irrelevant. But what's interesting is she now charges people for prayer counsel. She charges people to pray. Now imagine what? I know. Like, wait, what? And imagine the fallout that she had when she started selling services for prayer. Basically, she's got different tiers in her practice. She actually serves some high-level business owners with prayer, prays on their behalf and all these things. But she also teaches people how to do it in their own life, right? And so, of course, she had massive amounts of fallout, I think, when, there's all kinds of poverty mindset around that topic, right? Like, you heathen, you're charging people to pray. Like, there's something totally wrong with you. Like, how dare you? And I tell you that story because it's about, and I feel like we've talked about this, the shift in the mindset. How do you overcome it? I mean, what would you tangibly do to overcome this idea that you have value enough that these magical pieces of paper can come your direction, right? I think one is you have to do your own research. Like, what is out in the marketplace? What are people charging money for? And build your own case for why what you charge is worth it. I mean, imagine how much money, I randomly spend on Amazon for crap that I probably don't. Sometimes boxes show up and I'm like, I don't even remember what I got, right? Like, there, hello. Or what it costs right now to go to the grocery store or go out to eat. Go and do your own research on where people spend their money, specifically your target market. Where do they spend money? And rank yourself on where do I fall on this value ladder, right? If going out to dinner costs, a couple $100 US, and I charge, $900 for my core course, am I worth 4 nights out? Is my course going to be the kind of thing that's going to transform them more than 4 dinners? Probably. Yeah. Right. So I think first is checking your market. Then the second is have your own check-in. Like, are you winging it? This goes back to the whole, I'm high ticket because somebody told me to be high ticket. Mm-hmm. Like, are you being, I don't want to say fair, but are you being reasonable with your exchange of goods? Do you have a way built into your client process where you can surprise and delight them so that they feel like they've gotten more than what they paid for? Which is really what you're talking about. It's the other side of the coin. You said you don't want to be resentful because you charge too little. Ooh, that bitter root is so hard when you're a coach. And I know that feeling really well because I've felt that before. That bitter root, you're like, there's a saying to cast pearls before swine, like don't cast pearls before swine. It's like, in other words, you have all of these secrets, but you're undervalued. And so the people that you're trying to offer it to don't even understand the gold that you're showing them, right? So all this to say, find a way to take on all the risk, whether that's like maybe you have a guarantee, like a money back guarantee. Maybe you have some really good bonuses that you already created, intellectual property assets that you can throw in as bonuses to your offer that doesn't really cost you any time or money to develop because you've already done it. And when you show up, you know that you're giving them more than what they paid for, but you feel good about it because it didn't cost you more to give it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say is, who are you sitting down with? Because you have to also consider who you're transacting with. Not everyone is in a position to invest high ticket into coaching. Do they need it? Probably. As all coaches know, we all probably have a coach at some point, right? It's stretched us at some capacity. And sometimes that first stretch is the financial stretch. But let's be real. Some of us are just fighting to make sure that the housing payment is taken care of for this month, right? And we don't really have, as much as we'd like to justify, we aren't really in the season of expansion. We're really needing to have some other things. We need some heart work. We need some other stuff happening, right? That's going to serve us. And so I think it's also like, who are you talking to? And do you are you priced in a zone that's appropriate for that who? Because you've done enough market research to know, okay, this who, right, this particular demographic does spend $300 on their hair or whatever, right? Like you have some context. So
yeah. Thank you. That's great tips. I'm just mindful of the time. So, Jess, I've loved our conversation. But before we do wrap up, I'd love you to share with us what's setting your soul on fire right now.
Ooh, shoot! What's setting my soul on fire?
Yeah.
Ooh, man, having this conversation, I love this. I would say that's setting my soul on fire right now.
Woohoo!
And just being present more and more every day, being aware that I need to be present is a better way to put it. I had my 4-year-old do this phone thing to me. I don't know if your kids do this, but he did this thing where he took his fake phone, his little toy phone, and he was like, hold on, mommy, I'm on a call. And I was like, oh, where did that come from? I don't know. Cause him and me and my spouse were always doing this, right? Literally like talking to people. And I realized maybe I should put that down when I'm around him and like look at him and not multitask. So that's setting my soul on fire right now, being more conscientious in my household and just being grateful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy world. It's a crazy world out there right now.
Yep.
And fear would make you feel like it's the end of the world. But the truth is, it's just getting started, and there's so much opportunity. And anytime something rocks society, rocks the world, it opens the door for problems to be solved. So if you want to solve those problems, you're in a perfect position right now to really bring your gifts to the market and serve other people.
What a great message. Thank you, Jess. Jago. Sorry, I've been calling you Jess. I totally forgot to call you Jago. Thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about you and how they can work with you, where should they go?
Well, the easiest is my website. It's WarriorMaMaCEO.com. Pretty easy. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all the places. But the best place is my website.
Awesome. I'll have all your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you.